Welcome to my next video here. I am actually going to put in my 2 cents and insight on this video because I believe it's misunderstood and I think it's underrated. I think it's something that people aren't taking as serious as they should when certain things are happening the way that they are. Um, and I'm basically going to go into kind of exposing the false prophecy aspect of this. Now, I'm gonna we're gonna watch the video and I'm gonna pause it and play it as we watch it and put in my insight over it. I think it's important for me to, explain the way I see it and what I understand out of it because it's a lot more important than people are really understanding. And at first glance, everyone normally is like really shocked about it and it makes an impression and then it really stands out for them. But after a while, you just kind of forget about it. Now, I'll tell you a basic introduction before we watch this video. The St. Malachy prophecy, it has like 119 popes or 117 pope prophecies that were literally predicted down to the T. Um, and I kind of knew right away, like, oh my gosh, this is being set up. There's no other explanation, and it's kind of more like a skill because you know the way I see it is, it's like, man, I could really understand that if somebody is able to have such a unique ability of language, and that's what this ties into, is like, man, there was some sort of mastermind behind it. And that's what people are kind of forgetting, is like the mastermind aspect behind it. And they kind of don't even reconcile, like, oh, this is being masterminded. So I can kind of point out the details of, like, yeah, this is being masterminded. This is a creation, a false prophecy, although it's in the context of an actual prophecy. And I explained in that Kobe Bryant video. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Where, and I know I've said this in some of my previous videos, but the difference between a false prophecy and a prophecy is a prophecy, you don't set it up. All right. So if it's a prophecy, you don't make it happen. It's just a prophecy. And a false prophecy is where you basically create a prophecy, but you set it up and you make it happen, or that it will happen because you set up some sort of way for it to happen. So that's what makes it fake. That's the same as me saying, hey, I like, the way it works is it would be the same as like me saying, hey, um, this chapstick is going to be gone in 1 month, right? And then I just use it and I set it up so that it happens. So now the prophecy is fulfilled. So one can argue, oh, that's a prophecy, but what sets it apart from a prophecy or whatever, like in the example, most people would say, oh, that's not even a prophecy if you're going to say, oh, this is going to be gone in a month. Yeah, it's not a prophecy if you know that it's a false prophecy and you know that it's being set up. But I mean, on the other hand, there are ways that it could be a prophecy, because if I were to set my chapstick on my desk and then I prophesize, hey, chapstick will not be here in 1 month, and I don't do anything, and then all of a sudden in 1 month it disappears, that's a prophecy, and now it becomes an actual real prophecy. So this is the same aspect. I could say, hey, this chapstick's going to be gone in 1 month, but if I set it up and I make sure that it's gone in 1 month and nobody notices that I set it up, it will look like a prophecy. So that's the difference between a prophecy and a false prophecy. That's what I'm putting into explanation with this is a false prophecy where somebody says, hey, this chapstick is going to be gone in 1 month. And then all of a sudden it just disappears and nobody knows, because to everyone else, they don't see that it was set up, that somebody, used it, threw it away, whatever the case may be, however it so happened to disappear. Maybe, there's not really very much limitation on the aspects around a prophecy and a false prophecy. So you can literally make a false prophecy out of anything, and that's what I revealed in that Kobe Bryant video. It's like, hey guys, this is a false prophecy. This is a false prophecy. And that's what makes me a prophet. I mean, I don't use the word lightly, but I'm just saying, based off the English language, when you define language and definition of stuff, I am a prophet, because a prophet is someone who can predict the future events that are going to happen. And then they don't have anything to do with setting it up or making it happen, because it just happens on its own. So that's what makes a prophecy, and a false prophecy a false prophecy. So, anybody can prophesize something, but it's one thing if their prophecy, they make it happen. And then remember, if somebody makes their prophecy happen, it's still going to look like it's a prophecy if nobody realizes that, oh, they didn't see me set this up. They didn't see me set this up. And that's where I'm trying to point it out. Like, hey, look at the details and pay attention, because it's way against mathematical probability that this was not set up as, and what that means is that this is a false prophet. So let's watch the video, and then I'll kind of explain what I know about this stuff, because I just have more insight on, the technicalities and like understanding what it means. Like me, I'm a deep thinker, and I've been so perplexed with a lot of these end time mysteries and apocalypses, where I've just been sitting here thinking, man, I wonder what that means, And then I finally was able to connect so many different understandings to all sorts of different things, to where, for me, it's kind of easy to understand, like, oh my, this makes so much sense when you understand, oh, it's a false prophecy. Now, the more confusing part about it is kind of wondering, like, well, why is it a false prophecy? What would be the point of it? So I'll try to explain that part of the false prophecy as we go, because that's what makes it complicated, is to understand, like, why is it a false prophecy? Why are they doing that? Why would they want that? So we're going to play the video, because I know not everybody has saw the story of the St. Malachy prophecy. Now, the story of St. Malachy goes that he was a famous Catholic pope. I believe he was a Catholic pope that wrote down a manuscript of, I don't know if it's called a manuscript, but I'm pretty sure it is. But he wrote down a manuscript of prophecies slash what I argue is false prophecy. He wrote a bunch of false prophecy predicting, oh, the events that will occur in the future. And that's what really brought my attention to this. And when I first saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely remarkable and mind-boggling and amazing, unbelievable. I remember it wasn't until like I had known about it for so long that I just kind of got used to like knowing that it was real. But when I first heard about it, it's like I was dazzled and amazed, and I automatically kind of knew in the back of my mind, kind of like, oh, this has to mean something amazing. And for me, You know, it was like finding a diamond. Like we're talking a multi-million-dollar diamond because it's like, you know, in my perspective, there isn't much going on in the world, um, as far as like, is there any sort of universal mystery? This is one of my first great mysteries that I had ran across and I had begun to, know about because I had never saw such a remarkable, you know, story aside from the Giga Codex, which I will make a video on that and giving everybody my insight on that, which also goes into kind of I think it will go into another false prophet. It's almost as because he kind of set it up, but that's a different story. We'll get into that in another video. The Devil's Bible, the Giga Codex. Okay, so Saint Malachy literally prophesizes all of the popes, and he does it in a way where it's almost like Dr. Seuss. You know, he's writing down a rhyme and he's gonna tell you, but it's not gonna be directly. It's gonna be figuratively. So he figuratively prophesizes and tells you like this next pope will be this, that, about and XXX. So what makes the prophecy so amazing is the accuracy and how it's all his prophecies have come to pass. And what I mean by all his prophecies have come to pass, meaning they have all come to actually appear to be a actual true prophecy. Because I explained earlier, a prophecy is when somebody predicts the future. Okay, so they tell you what the future will be, and then the future has not occurred yet. So what makes it most amazing is, of course, the further into the future you can predict, the more you're going to stand out. It's like proving that it's an actual somewhat prophecy, but I argue it's a false prophecy. As I explain what a false prophecy is when somebody sets it up. So that's what I'm explaining about the Saint Malachy prophecy is it's being set up. So it's not even that like it's a prophecy. It's almost like a domino. Okay, so nobody thinks that it's out of the ordinary if dominoes just keep falling over because you know that that domino before is what makes the next domino fall over. So it's not until you realize, oh my gosh, it's not really a prophecy because it's being set up, made to occur. But this is what's most amazing is all 100, I think it's actually 112 or 113 prophecies have been accurate. They've all concluded, oh my, it's real. So what he does is he predicts the prophet, or he predicts the pope, and then he gives a description of the detail of what he predicts who will be the pope. That's what he's predicting of who will become the pope. So all of his prophecies, he accurately is able to prove that he knows who each pope is going to be. And what makes the story so remarkable is we're on the last pope before the last pope. So we're on the second to the last pope. And remember, if all of his prophecies come true, then based on his prophecy, his next prophecy reveals that the apocalypse will unfold during the revelation of the next pope. So when we see the next pope, everyone's going to be scrambling to see, oh my gosh, will the prophecy come to pass? Will it be what Saint Malachy predicted? And what makes anybody think that if he wasn't wrong in his other 112 prophecies predicting the popes and all the details of what he was saying, what makes anybody think that this next pope that's being prophesized to lead into the apocalypse is not going to happen. And that's what I'm here to reveal and argue. Like, hey, everybody needs to be careful because when this prophecy slash false prophecy are to come to pass, we are going into the apocalypse. And that's what my whole YouTube video reveals. So that's what makes me, I'm a more authentic prophet than Saint Malachy, but his work is absolutely amazing, and I don't discredit him. I just say that our work is different. So if I were to be a false prophet, I would argue he is a more he is better with his false prophecy than me because I don't do false prophecy, so that's the difference. This is false prophecy, and then what I do is just pure, legitimate, organic prophecy because I just say what I believe is going to happen in the future, and I have no connection to making it happen. I just take a random stab in the dark, which would have made his prophecies an actual prophecy if I wasn't able to conclude, like, oh, this is a false prophecy because he is tied to an understanding of how he knows how to make it occur and set it up so that it actually does happen. And that's the difference. When he's going to go into his prophecy, of course, his prophecy slash false prophecy is way greater than my prophecy because mine is just, very simple, one little guess. But this guy goes into doing hundreds of prophecies, which should have stood out to everybody and became more obvious. Like, oh my gosh, this is just false prophecy. There's no way anybody can predict this amount of detail without, forcing it to happen and knowing that they can make it happen. So, like I say, I'm just a real prophet. I just tell you what I think that the future will be. So the only thing that will make me a prophet is if it happens, when it happens, because no one's ever going to know that I'm not a prophet until I can actually, and I've already done proved some prophecy, but uh, it's just not enough to where it's going to get everybody's attention to really understand the significance of it until more of my prophecies come to pass. So that's why remember, I can only prophesize so much, only of what I am led to understand or notice. So a prophecy, my prophecies are, I argue, some of the most powerful prophecies because I have no connection or correlation to the order that is making these false prophecies. Okay? Now, the reason they're going to be doing like false prophecy is to demonstrate the psyche of the mind and how they're demonstrating how they have an understanding of things that not everybody really notices. So it's kind of more or less there are kind of two separate branches of individuals. The aliens and then like kind of the normal people. So what the definition of an alien in my book is, higher intelligence, higher expectation. So this is revealing that aliens exist. Doesn't mean that an alien has to be a green person coming in on a spaceship down out of the universe from some part of other corner of the galaxy, which everybody's led to believe. Oh, are there aliens? Well, the truth of the matter is, even a human can be an alien. Okay, so what makes an alien? What qualifies somebody to be an alien? This is what qualifies somebody to be an alien. the Saint Malachy, okay, that he's an alien. An alien is somebody who has higher expectations, knows more, right? That's all an alien is. Somebody who knows more than everybody. So that's how we can conclude he's an actual alien, is because he knows things that nobody else knows, and that's what an alien is. If we were to go down to the stereotypical regular alien that most people think about, they think, oh, an alien's going to be a person who has technology that nobody knows about, and then everybody wants to, talk to the alien to have them show them their alien technology so that they could become more advanced. So that's what makes an alien, is the separation. The separation. Okay? So as an alien, obviously, figuratively speaking, if they come from some corner of the galaxy flying in on their spacecraft, they aren't going to tell everybody how they know what they know, right? Because they're the only ones that really know what they know, and that's what makes them an alien, is higher expectation. That's the true definition of an alien, higher expectation. And by definition, I am technically an alien. But it doesn't mean I'm coming flying in, and it doesn't mean that I have some sort of mask on and I'm a green alien. A green alien, it's just a concept, the definition, to have higher expectation. So that means, I know things that nobody else knows, and that's what makes me an alien, is my prophecies. Same with him. That's what makes him an alien, is his prophecies and how he's able to prove how he knows things that nobody else does. So therefore, he is an alien, and that was why I was so intrigued and amazed by when I first saw this. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe nobody really thought that this was such a big deal, and it was like the most amazing revelation and discovery that I had. One of my amazing first discoveries that I had ever come to start understanding and realizing the importance of it, right? So let's watch the video, and I'll just kind of give you guys some of my insight, because I feel as though I just kind of went over the important part of, why am I making this a video, and why am I basically just going to watch it with everybody, because I'm just kind of explaining how it all works. So notice how this is just a little bit weird.
There is another seer whose chilling predictions continue to echo down the centuries. He is Saint Malachy, canonized in 1190. Malachy was a reforming Catholic prelate born in Armagh in 1094. On a visit to Rome, he was struck by a vision. Before him appeared a series of Latin phrases identifying the 111 popes who would rule the Catholic Church until the end of time.
He uttered 111 Latin mottos, which are supposed to represent the nature, the name of destiny, or the coat of arms of every pope until Judgment Day.
Many of the phrases are considered too precise to be the results of chance. John the 23rd, the 107th pope in the prophecy, is referred to as Pastor et Nortam, priest and sailor. Before becoming pope in 1958, he was the Patriarch of Venice. Paul VI is Flos Floram, flower among flowers. His coat of arms is a lily among lilies.
John Paul II, who is called De Labora Solis in the prophecies, which means the sun's eclipse, the sun's labor. He is the only pontiff on the list that was born on an eclipse and later entombed during an eclipse.
And the 111th, the final pope in the prophecy?
The Gloria Olivae, from the glory of the olive. That's the current Benedict XVI.
At the end of the list, Malachy is said to have uttered a final doom-laden phrase, this one unnumbered.
During the final persecution, the seat of the Holy Roman Church will be occupied by Peter the Roman, who will feed the sheep in many tribulations, after which the seven-hilled city will be destroyed, and the terrible judge will judge his people. The end.
Is Malachy describing the end of the Catholic Church, or the end of the world? Is Peter the Roman the last pope who will follow the current pontiff, Benedict XVI? Some experts consider that since the motto is unnumbered, they are actually one and the same.
St. Malachy claims that he had a spiritual experience one day, and while in a trance, God showed him all of the popes that would exist from his time until the last pope. Malachy was given a prophecy of 112 popes. And in these 112 popes, there were given signs, little clues as to the identity of each one, all 112. Well, the writings of Malachy were stored away in a vault by one of the popes for about 300 years. They didn't have printing presses in those days, so the possibility of circulating the writings of St. Malachy were very small. But when Gutenberg invented the printing press, all of a sudden someone printed the prophecies of St. Malachi. And as the prophecies of St. Malachi began to be known, people became very interested, and they started counting the popes. Well, several hundred years had passed by that time. However, 112 total popes from St. Malachi to the last pope. Well, what's in fact happening right now? Pope John Paul II, who just died in 2005, was the 110th pope. No wonder interest in the prophecies of St. Malachi are reviving right now. When the cardinals came to Rome to elect the 111th pope, an article appeared out of India the day before the election. A man said to the cardinals, you must elect a giant spiritual leader. You must elect a pope that can appeal to young people. You must elect someone that can hold the church together. But he said, there's one more thing you must pay attention to when you elect the new pope tomorrow in the Sistine Chapel. Make sure you don't elect a pope that has anything to do with the olive, because the clue for the 111th pope was the glory of the olive, whatever that means.
Okay, so the glory of the olive. Hold on.
Well, the conclave was held, the white smoke came out of the Sistine Chapel chimney, and the word went out, we have a pope. When the identity of the pope...
So, notice this guy was explaining, you know, when they even were selecting the new pope, they don't want the prophecy to be real. So they're trying to avoid it being real, because it's like, you know, if it ends up being real, you know, what's going to stop the next prophecy from being real? So they're trying by all means to stop and prevent it from happening and becoming real. So lo and behold, this guy is revealing, you know, there's no stopping it. It just happens, and it's going to happen. Same with what I prophesize that, oh yeah, the next pope, it will happen. There's no stopping it. That you can't stop false prophecy, because it's set up and it's going to happen. Okay, now let's watch the rest of the video.
Was disclosed, it was Cardinal Ratzinger of Germany, and everybody thought, glory of the olive. Has nothing to do with it. I mean, you've never heard of a Ratzinger olive, I'm sure. And so everybody thought, surely not, this doesn't have anything to do with anything. even though he's the 111th Pope. Everybody was interested, though, in finding out what his name would be that he would rule under. You know, when popes are elected, they don't rule under their own name. They take a name like Pope John 23rd or Pope Pius the 12th, the last one, Pope John Paul II. So everybody wondered, how will Cardinal Ratzinger rule the church? What name? Because when a man picks a name, it usually is indicative of something that means something special to him. Well, the announcement was made the next day that the Pope would rule under the name of Benedict XVI. And everybody wondered, what's that got to do with anything? Saint Benedict was the patron saint of Europe. He was a very powerful man, and he gave birth to a powerful order called the Benedictine Order. Well, the Benedictine Order has been powerful in the Roman Catholic Church for a long time, and it has a symbol. You may be interested to know, and by now you've guessed it, the symbol of the Benedictine order is the olive. So he chose the glory of the olive.
So what he basically just revealed is that the 100, I think it's the 100, yeah, the 110th Pope right there, the prophecy has come to pass. So, you know, they were trying to avoid it, but, you know, there's no avoiding it. It just keeps happening. And that's what happened with each and every pope. Every time that new pope came in, oh my gosh, it's been prophesized. Oh man, it's been prophesized. It's been prophesized. It's been prophesized.
Now that he's the pope representing the Benedictine order. So the question has to be asked, are we right now watching the 111th Pope? Now, the prophecy says that in the days of the 112th Pope, Rome will be destroyed. Well, the prophecies of the Bible. I don't know what to say about the prophecies of St. Malachy. I don't know whether I believe them or don't. I'm simply telling you that if this is coincidence, it's very coincidental. But I do know this. The Bible says that right at the time of the Battle of Armageddon, the city of Rome is going to be destroyed. And that's what it says happens at the 112th Pope. Now, it's really interesting that this Pope just elected was elected at the age of 75. The cardinals chose an older Pope on purpose because Pope John Paul II had ruled the church for so long that he had totally changed the texture of the church. They felt like they did not want a Pope that would rule for a long time, so they picked a man 75 years of age. Today, he's 76 years of age. So how long will he rule? If, in fact, he is the next to the last pope, and all the other signposts that we're talking about today are coming to pass right now, then perhaps St. Malachy was on to something. Perhaps the next pope will be the last pope. Now, remember, in the St. Malachy prophecy, it says the...
So he's on the middle of the fence, because the Bible, he must be one of those people that follow the Bible close, which is understandable. I have no problem with that. He doesn't want to set himself up to be a false prophet and say, hey, this is going to happen, and then it be wrong, and then it doesn't happen. That's where I come in and prophesize that it will happen. So my prophecy is that it will happen, and it's going to happen, and that it cannot be stopped. So the 112th Pope coming into office will lead into Armageddon, the apocalypse. That's my prophecy. That's a prophecy, because it's a guess, but it's at the same time a prophecy, because if it happens, it doesn't matter. Anybody who, guesses that, it will happen, and if it does happen, you potentially have prophesized. Of course, the more you can prophesize, the greater your ability. So there are different magnitudes and levels of being a prophet. Anybody can be a prophet if they, kind of guess right. But there may become a point where you're not always going to guess right, and that's what potentially sets the bar and level skill of some people's abilities to prophesize as opposed to some other people's ability to prophesize, is how many times can they guess correctly.
Last pope will be Peter the Roman. Now, whatever that means. Apparently, he's going to be a person from Italy. We've had 2 popes in a row not from Italy. The first 2 popes not from Italy in 455 years. All of a sudden, it looks like if St. Malachy's prophecy is correct, and I can't tell you whether it is or not. It's not biblical. It's just something that happened. But if, in fact, it is correct, after this pope dies, the next pope elected will preside over the destruction of the city of Rome. Several times in the book of Revelation, Rome is referred to as Mystery Babylon. Revelation 17, Mystery Babylon is called the city of 7 hills. Rome is the city of 7 hills. And the destruction of the city of Rome is mentioned several times in the book of Revelation. And that's what St. Malachy said. So here we are. You got St. Malachy's word, which you have to take with a grain of salt, but you got the Bible that you can take to the bank. And it's telling us, you and me, that we're getting closer and closer to the second coming.
Okay, well, that wraps this video up. So please like and subscribe to the video.